Welcome to our parent conference. My name is Jean Chula with Prevention Resources, and I'll be presenting our program tonight. And it's going to be Raising Resilient Kids. So I am going to start sharing my screen, and hopefully everyone will be able to see the presentation. It'll just be a moment. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see the PowerPoint in front of them. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about resilience, which in today's atmosphere, and we need our kids to be resilient, and we need to be resilient as well. And the best way to do that is for them to be able to watch us and watch us being resilient. And so first of all, we're going to talk about what it is even, okay? And how do we really define it? Well, it really isn't a trampoline where you're up 1 minute and down the next. It's more like climbing a mountain without a trail mat. It takes time, strength, and help from those around you uh, to move forward. And you're likely going to, experience setbacks. We all do along that way, but eventually you reach the top and look back at how far you've come. You keep pushing along, and with those setbacks, you learn from them, you move on. But resiliency is something that's developed really over time and experience. It's really the ability to bounce back. We have a problem. We learn from that problem. We may go through some hard times, but as long as we're learning uh, about the consequences that came from that, the actions that we took, and we move on and we cope with it the best way we can, then that's the best way to try to manage it, because we're all going through tough times. And resilience doesn't solve the problem, but it helps us to adjust and manage and find our way through it, as long as we can find those good coping skills. And that's what it's so important. And that's what we have to teach our kids. So if we think of resilience, we want to think of it kind of like a balance scale or a seesaw, where negative experiences tip the scale toward bad outcomes, but positive experiences can tip it toward good outcomes. Okay? The point where the scale balances in the middle is called the fulcrum. And if it's more to one side or the other, it can make it harder or easier to tip the resilience scale to the positive. Okay? So everyone's fulcrum is in a different spot. We can all manage different things, some better than others. So everyone's fulcrum is different, which explains why each person balances their hardships differently. Okay? The good news is that we can move the fulcrum by using tools that we can find that help us deal with these things, our own little toolkit that you can adapt and find solutions with. Okay? Using resilience can help tip that scale towards the positive. And we want to build up those skills. And as we build up our resiliency skills, our kids will see us, and then we in turn can help them build as well. Sometimes without even trying, as long as we're doing our best and they watch that. But there are things that we can do. I want you to think of the hard things like risk factors, okay, that youth may be experiencing. These are the things that make basically things more difficult for them. Individual or environmental characteristics or conditions or behaviors that increase the likelihood that a negative outcome will occur, okay? Like hanging out with kids that get into dangerous situations, no family support in the home, family that are going through tough times, and no person that child can go to talk to about problems. That increases the likelihood of negative outcomes. Good things are like protective factors, which are individual environmental characteristics, conditions, or behaviors that reduce the effects of stressful life situations, okay? But increase the individual's ability to avoid risks or hazards, okay? So that promotes social and emotional competence. So this way they can thrive in all aspects of life now and in the future. And we want to build those good things to help them improve their resilience. And that's what we have to try to do as parents. But if we do it for ourselves, we're helping them as well, because if they see us doing it, they'll want to do it as well. Okay, I am going to show you a video that compares youth resilience to a tree and its foundation and what it needs and what supports it to thrive. And after the video, we're going to talk about more things that we can do to support our youth and help them build resilience.
engage us, support us, watch us grow. At the Resilience Research Center, we sometimes picture youth resilience as a tree. A tree can't survive on its own. It needs certain things from its environment to grow up healthy and strong. A strong tree needs access to the right ground conditions, nutrients from the soil, enough sunlight, regular water, and a good supply of oxygen. At the same time, a tree faces certain risks from its environment. Drought, flood, pollution, and fire can make it difficult for a tree to thrive. Much like a tree, youth depend on their environment to grow up well. They need strong roots that are developed through healthy surroundings. If youth lack basic needs, are without a caring adult, live in a dangerous community, have negative connections with their peers, or face other challenges, then they become less likely to achieve positive outcomes. If their environment fails to give youth what they need to develop strong roots, then these young people won't have the foundation to grow and develop well. With the right ingredients, a tree grows a strong trunk from which it displays its many branches and vibrant leaves. That trunk supports the bulk of the tree and moves nutrients from the roots to the very top. It's similar to the structures, the skills, and the connections that youth need to do well, to display their own vibrancies. Supports become meaningful when they are either identified by youth or youth can understand the relevance. This makes youth engagement and participation in decisions very important. Service providers need to listen to youth voices, provide unconditional positive support, and ensure a sense of safety. When youth see and understand the relevance of a support, they will use it to help build the skills and connections they need to do well in their environment. What these successful skills will look like will depend in part on the culture and community they live in. Youth resilience is complex, but maybe looking at it through this metaphor of a tree can help us make sense of the basic principles. Improve resources in their environment, give them strong support, engage them in the process, and watch youth grow.
Okay, so why is resilience important? Well, it gives people the strength that they need to process and overcome their problems and hardships. And many of us go through many different things throughout the years, and we need that to keep pushing on and to stay positive, and not let the problems just overcome us. Those lacking resilience may easily get overwhelmed. And when people get overwhelmed and if they haven't been taught healthy coping skills, they may turn to alcohol, drugs, and other things that may really make their lives a lot more difficult. Many people years ago were not taught about healthy coping skills. We also know that resilient people tap into their strengths and support systems. So they go to their family, they go to their friends, they may go to their clergy or their support systems outside, well, where their job is or wherever their group of people are that they know they can depend on, and to help them work through problems. We all experience hardships and setbacks in our lives, every one of us, and resilience helps us handle those misfortunes and move forward. It's unrealistic to think that everyone will always be perfect, but we need our kids to understand this and know that it's okay to have a setback and move forward. And they watch how we handle moving forward. If we're, plugging along and trying our best, even though we're having problems, but they see us acting responsible and managing our feelings and emotions in a healthy way, that's how they learn. They watch us. So what contributes to resiliency? So here's a list of things that we know. A lot depends on the child's temperament, how they manage their own stress, what their personality is like. Close relationship with nurturing adults. I can't stress that enough. Children need to know that they're loved and wanted no matter what their behavior is. They need to know they're loved. Good support systems. A lot of people may have a lot of family around them or they may have no family around them. And if you don't have family around you that can help you, like you turn to coaches, teachers, good peers, friends that you approve, that you like and they like and that are good for them. Just good positive coping skills. I'm in schools all the time and I hear all the time that so many young people just do not have good coping skills. And when we were young, we were really never taught what positive coping skills were. We just had a deal, toughen up. We're going to talk about good coping skills. Ability to self-soothe. Kids need to be entertained and want to be entertained all the time thanks to social media and phones. And they're all getting, this attention deficit because they're constant stimulation they want. They don't know how to be bored where they can then be creative. So they need to learn how to just wind themselves down, go take a walk, play with a pet, do something that's literally like a baby. You'd give them, something to suck on when they were crying or teething, a teething ring. And once they found their thumb, you didn't have to provide that for them. They knew how to soothe themselves, or a blanket. Kids need a way to entertain themselves on their own without technology and without adult providing it for them. Development of talents and interests. One of the most important things for that positive self-esteem, which creates resilience, is just feeling good about something that you're doing and developing a talent or a skill. Maybe not inundating them with, let's do 10 different things, but finding that one or two things that they do well at and help them get better at it. And that will give them better self-esteem, but it'll also, once again, help with resilience, because if they like doing it, they may do that when they're down or going through a tough time. Healthy peer relationships. And it's not always easy to find those friends for your kids, or for them to find the friends that you approve of. But that really is important, because they are who they associate, unfortunately, with. And so you want them to be with kids that they share common interests and have the same type of goals, and just the things you want them to be with kids that you have the same type of ideals that they have. Social competence. You want your kids to be able to carry on a conversation, have good manners, be socially okay. Because if they're comfortable with other people and have good social skills, they'll be able to deal with things better and express their feelings in a better and a safer way. And good problem solving and decision making skills. And that develops over time. Part of the brain, and that part of the brain, prefrontal cortex, doesn't develop until someone is 25 years old. And that part of the brain, prefrontal cortex, is responsible for making good decisions and thinking about problems and thinking about consequences. But we can still work on it with our kids, and we should be. So we help them with that problem solving, thinking about consequences. That should be the key thing we talk about when we're working with our kids. Well, if you make that decision, what could happen? Could it hurt you? Could it hurt someone else? Always think about consequences. That makes those decisions so much better. So, well, there are 7 C's of resilience. So now this is a doctor by the name of Dr. Ginsburg, who's a pediatrician and human development expert, proposes that there are 7 integral and interrelated components that make up being resilient. Okay, we're going to take a quick look at each of these for the next few minutes. So we see here competence, confidence, connection, character, contribution, coping, and control. So if you can see up on the first one under competence, one of the most incredible aspects of childhood is that a child can dream about becoming literally just about anything they want to be. One way people are motivated is through a sense of competence. This is not necessarily an objective fact, but more of a subjective feeling that one is capable and perceived by others and those around them as capable. We all want to be, seen by others as that we're capable of doing things. For example, for younger kids learning to tie their shoes, a lot of times, as moms, we may say, oh, let me help them, we're in a rush. No, we really have to teach our kids that learning to do it themselves will make them feel much more competent and will give them much more confidence in their ability when we teach them how to do things and let them do it for themselves. So learning how to spell, make sure they're learning how to spell. We don't help them with things like that. We don't always help them with their homework. Let them try their best, and if they fail, they try harder the next time. But once they do it and they succeed, that builds that competence, and that builds that confidence, and it makes them feel confident in what they're doing. It's really, really important. Children who experience their own competence and know that they're safe and protective develop a deep-seated security. And it promotes the confidence to face and cope with life's challenges. So the more they're exposed to and the more they take risks that are safe risks, the more confidence they're going to get. As a parent, allow for trial and error. Articulate specific strengths using, I notice, or you did a great job, or that's great how you handled that. That was a hard decision. That's terrific. Appreciate their progress, but be aware of the messages and actions that you're sending. Children learn through interactions with other children and adults. So when they're playing and they're playing with their friends and they fall, they know they can get back up and continue playing. We teach kids this. Do your best to disconnect them from technology. Technology is not their friend. And there's so many young kids that are given phones and they're on the internet and on social media and on Roblox and all these games and stuff. And they're talking to people that are older than them. You need to disconnect them from technology, especially on the weekends and after school, to encourage interaction with others. The more interactions with others, the more their character grows, the more they learn how to make decisions. They work out their problems so much better than when they're online all the time. So, be a role model. Look at character, contribution, and control. Be a role model. You know what? Children learn from their parents and will often replicate how they see you acting and reacting. They're sponges. They're watching everything we do. And if they're not acting as you like, you may need to work with them on building their character and making good choices, treating others with respect. You may catch them in a moment. You may want to say, hey, you know what? You could have handled that better. You could have been nicer. Everyone deserves respect, and they will watch how we handle those situations. In a restaurant, how do you treat the waiter or the waitress? Do you treat them with respect, or do you talk down to them? That's what children learn. So use teachable moments to build character, consequences, and taking responsibility. Okay. Provide opportunities to practice. So when your child has the opportunity to make a decision, say, you know, having to choose between two friends, two different, you know, play dates, or two different times they want to go to a party or go to someone's house, whatever. Help them take the ethical action and see the positive results of their decisions. And see, you know, think about consequences of either decision and what's going to work out best for everyone, where no one's going to be hurt. Something magical happens when children realize the world is a better place because they're a part of it. And we have to make them feel that way. And contributing by helping others in need can teach a lot about life, especially when a child's feeling down or depressed or things aren't going well. Helping others is one of the best things they can do. And it's not always easy to get them motivated, but we as parents have to do it. They have to come with us. They have to see us doing it. And we have to get out of our house, away from the computer, or away from all the work. And it's hard to find time to do these things. But teaching our kids how to help others in need can increase their resiliency. Okay, they learn how to take care of situations. These people are maybe struggling. Other people are helping them. What can I do? They know they can reach out. They know they can offer help. And that builds character. Goals are future oriented and help us be hopeful, even when obstacles get in the way. And this challenges them to make healthy decisions that can help them bounce back when faced with a difficult situation. And there are going to be many in their lives, as there's been many in our lives. And this increases their confidence and competence. Help your child understand that life events are usually based on the results of another's choices and actions, and sometimes some of their own choices. Consequences, you know, we all have to pay for the consequences of our own actions, but sometimes the actions of others, which is not always fair. And disciplining is about teaching, and therefore this will help your child understand their actions create certain consequences. So we talk about choices, and with choices, you have to make a decision, and with decisions, there are consequences. So the sooner they learn about this and how consequences affect their life, either making it harder or easier, that'll become second nature to them. Talk about feelings. You know, it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad and happy. It's how you act them out which can make or break and can cause the consequences. By talking to your child about these feelings, you're helping them understand their experiences and how they can learn from their thoughts and actions in that moment. Okay, we think about things, we may take action, but if they stop and think, count to 10, take a deep breath, they may be able to control impulses and make better choices. And if they do get angry a lot or have an issue with managing their anger, and that affects resilience because then the bad choices come, tell them to stop. Take a few deep breaths, count to 10, walk away, do whatever it takes, but help them bring it down so they can stop and focus and think about what are the consequences? What can I do to get out of the situation before I make a bad choice? Okay. When we talk about our feelings with kids, we can see if they need to improve on their ability to cope for what comes next. And we know there'll be other difficult situations throughout life. So the more we get this conversation going, the better prepared they'll be for it. Now we're going to talk about coping. And coping skills are a big topic everywhere. I work in grades 4 through 12, and I'm in schools regularly doing various types of programs on substance misuse, on cyber safety, making good choices, things like that. And coping has been a thing that's come up with teachers and anxiety and things of that nature. And it's so important for kids to learn how to effectively cope and what they can do to strengthen those skills. All people really need to learn how to effectively cope with work and work through stress, because stress is going to be a part of our life. And kids are stressed. When I ask them about this at all ages, their hands go up. They need to know it's healthy to express emotions, but then know how to manage those emotions. That's the key part here. It's important that kids know it's okay to have feelings like sadness and disappointment and anger, but how they act or react, that's what will move them forward or backwards. The next slide goes over some healthy and unhealthy coping skills. So we're going to see on the left side, you're going to see healthy coping skills. So any form of activity, exercise. Doesn't have to be sports. I just mean getting out, going for a walk, going for a run, roller skating, riding a bicycle, walking your dog. Any movement is good for burning anxiety, stress, managing anger. Really, really good for that. Playing basketball, football, you name it, all really good for the brain, and it's also good for decompressing anger, stress, anxiety. Playing sports, volunteering teaches people to think about others. Reading, being creative, writing, listening to music, positive self-talk. Too many of us are always finding fault with ourselves and finding fault with others. So learning how to give yourself a break. And if your kids hear you constantly pulling yourself apart, they'll be the same. So positive self-talk. I will be good at this. I will do well today. I will do well on that test. Your brain will start listening if you keep saying it. Talking about the problem and your feelings, getting problems out, having them come to you and talk about their problems instead of bottling it up and acting out their problems. Healthy eating and sleeping, not overeating, not getting lousy sleep and getting to bed too late and having their phone or computer near them. Relaxation techniques, teaching kids how to deep breathe and focus on their breath can manage anger and anxiety in such a great way. And talking to a friend or a trusted adult if they're struggling. Always, 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 you stress that with your kids too. When you're having a hard time, you don't know how to deal with it, don't make a bad decision. Come to me, go to someone that you trust. And listening to music, playing music, anything that lets out some of those creative juices is also another good thing. Now, the negative coping skills, there's many also. And we see so many young people. I see so many middle school kids using substances like turning to alcohol, yes, somewhat, but the vaping is incredible. So they turn to things like that very quickly because they may see their parents using that, having that glass of wine, having that beer, having that cigarette, and they model exactly what their parents are doing. So, and parents may say, I don't want you doing that, but if they're doing that, they watch. So that's in a coping skill that the older generation was never taught about years ago, how dangerous drugs were when it came to addiction and being, if you're under the age of 25, you have a much greater risk of addiction. So if young people are experimenting at 14, 15, 16, 17, their risk of addiction is high, very, very high. And it runs in families. It's a genetic disease. So we need to keep our kids away from substances. Kids sometimes hurt themselves, cutting, name calling or insulting others, spreading rumors, blaming others, avoiding problems, getting revenge, negative social media posts, as you can see, all these things here, pretending not to care, being aggressive towards others, threatening behavior, you name it. You can think of all the different things that kids can express. And we see a lot of cyberbullying going on online, and people just being mean because the political environment is so mean. So kids may hear things at home and they get nasty with others as well because they may hear their parents that way. And children learn to be resilient in the context of supportive relationships with caring adults who treat them respectfully and compassionately, offering emotional support when they're struggling while at the same time treating them as a competent, capable people. They want to feel like their parents think they're competent. They don't want to think their parents to think that, they're not capable of anything and they have to be babied. So self-care is something that sometimes we as parents don't always think about, but it is extremely important, especially during those difficult times. And if our kids see us taking time for ourselves, hopefully they'll learn better self-care. And maintaining a balance of our physical, social, and mental and emotional health are essential. And here's a video that speaks to this. And sometimes it's hard to find that time for ourselves. And I know so many parents and with the cost of living nowadays are working around the clock. Just find those one or two things that you can do, even if you take a few minutes each day and deep breathe, find ways of just decompressing and relaxing, taking a walk, doing things that your kids can see that you're doing that are self-soothing, reading a book, playing with your animals, like cooking or drawing or art, something that you can fit in that you enjoy. And when kids learn how to decompress with something that helps them feel good about themselves, that will be their coping skill. Whatever they do well at, talk to them about it. What makes them feel good? When they're really tired, just reinforce that they sleep or rest and not push themselves. There's so many things that we can do, even if we don't have a whole lot of time. So steps to help youth build resilience. First of all, we want to expose them to challenges. And it's not always fun to do that because they may complain and give us a hard time. But that is to really help them succeed and make plans to do things, even if they're scared or nervous. And, I often say you got to get out of your comfort zone. And you know what? It's hard that first time or two that you're getting out of the comfort zone. But once you do that, they will build resilience and make it so much easier for them to do it the next time. It's like a child speaking in front of the class. They may be extremely nervous about that, or asking the teacher for help on an assignment or to raise their grade. The more they do it, the easier it gets. It's just those first few times is hard, but teaching kids to be more assertive is really one of the best things we can do. Don't fix, don't let them experience disappointment. A lot of times as parents, we want to fix it. We want to make it easier for them. We want them to never be hurt or left out, but they need to experience disappointment so they learn that sadness and disappointment don't last forever, and they'll rebound from it. Okay, it doesn't mean that we ignore their disappointment. Validating it and helping it learn to cope with it is a way of building emotional resilience. It just means we're not rescuing them from their sadness. We need to let them know that it's okay to feel sad, but the sadness will pass. As long as they experience it, the disappointment passes over time. And with kids, it passes a little bit quicker than sometimes it does with adults. But giving them the tools to manage that. Have them turn to the things that make them feel good when they're sad. Playing with their pets, going for a walk, watching a movie, art, anything that's something that makes them laugh. Finding those go-to things that they can do and things they can do throughout their life. So those coping skills just follow them throughout their life. They have to think, excuse me, they should be able to take, excuse me once again, reasonable age-appropriate risks. I don't know what's happening. So sorry. And think about, like, if they're in a playground with people, with their friends, and they want to go higher on a jumping gym or on a jungle gym, or they want to go to school by themselves. It may be challenging, but the more we give them the opportunity to do that, the more confidence they'll get in their ability to do that. And those are the kind of things, like baby steps. Allow them to do certain things and discuss what the consequences may be, and talk about what they've learned from that. They may have to do something scary. Say they have to, speak in front of the class or do a presentation and they start, coughing. How do you get through it? You just keep going and you do your best. And, you say, what did you learn from that? I learned that I didn't fall apart. I learned that I can do that. Or, I forgot what I was going to say in front of the class and kids laughed for a minute and then I pushed through and it was fine. Those are all things we can do to learn about resilience. But they have to do they have to take that step, that risky step, and discuss those consequences. What would they do differently the next time? Did you handle it the right way? And the first few times it may be, you know what, I really don't like what happened. It's okay, so let's learn from it. Let's talk about it. Let's move on. So the next time it happens, what are you going to do differently? So it starts the conversation going. Increase their exposure to people who care about them. That's only going to help them. Anything you can do to build their connection with the people who love them is going to strengthen their resilience and strengthen them in general, because nothing's better for a child or anyone but is to know that they're loved by others. Okay, build their confidence and ability to manage their feelings and actions. So teach them how to handle situations and then give them the autonomy to do it. Let them do it on their own. Okay, establish routines, model healthy social behavior, creative play, exercise. All kids really help them to grow. Teach them to reframe the challenges. So think of it differently. Use positive self-talk to handle the disappointments and challenges. Also, encourage your child to ask for help and have a support network. So remind them that it's okay to ask for help. As adults, it's okay to ask for help. We don't have the answers to everything. So it's okay to do that. And they need to learn it's okay to ask for help as well. And they should always learn how to go to a trusted adult if they're in that situation. Guidance counselor, a teacher. Don't do it for them, but guide them how to do it so they know how to do it on their own. Imitation is such a powerful way to learn. So model that resiliency. Okay, the youth in your life will want to be just like you, and they'll be watching everything. Let them see how you deal with the disappointment. Bringing them into your emotional world at appropriate times will help them see that sadness, disappointment are all very normal human experiences, and they don't last forever. You can tell them, I'm disappointed that I didn't get, I'm disappointed that I didn't get that job. And I'm sad about it, but you know what? I'll get another one. And I'm sad now, but let's do something to take my mind off of it. We all have situations that we're not happy with, but if they see us handling what's gone on in our lives, that isn't always positive, and they see us handling it well, then they'll tend to handle their own problems the best way they can as well. So what do we want to remember here? We want to remember that resilience is built over time, and it's all based on experience and the support we have, and reinforce that empathy throughout. We need to let our kids know, give them that positive reinforcement. If we see them trying, notice it, acknowledge it, reinforce it. Let's focus on the negative. If all kids are hearing is, you didn't do this, you didn't get that, you didn't get the grade I wanted, they're never going to feel good enough. And that is going to tip that scale to the negative. Okay. If they're trying, you acknowledge it. You notice that positive and you focus on that. Talk to your child about their feelings. If they're feeling sad, if they're feeling angry, why are you feeling angry? Especially in times of stress. Let them express those feelings. Talk about it so they're not acting it out. Okay, I'm sad. Well, why? What happened? Well, what can we do? Well, you know what? It'll pass. I understand you're sad, and I'm sad for you, but it's okay. But don't try to talk them out of it. Let them say, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. You know, let's go do something fun. Maybe it'll help you feel better. Work with your child on positive coping skills to help them find what they like to do, expose them to different things. So they, have that go-to toolkit. Oh, I'm going to go draw because art makes me feel good. Or I'm going to go walk outside because when I get exercise and fresh air, that winds me down. So that's something positive. Work with your child to build a support network. Get them involved in something, an activity they like, so they can meet new friends that they have something in common with. Involve your child in decisions when possible to build their confidence and control skills. So ask them, what do you think about that? And, get them involved so they feel like they have some power. A lot of times kids become difficult when they feel they're powerless. Give them some, power in their decisions so they feel, competent enough to do that. And it builds confidence in their decision making as well. And failure is one step in growth and can lead to even more success. So we can share some of our stories of failure. I tried this and I didn't do well at it, but, I tried this instead and I'm much better at this than I would be at that. So I'm glad I tried it and failed, and now I know. We can discuss those things with our kids. Reach out if you or they need additional support or assistance. And there's many times parents don't have the answers, and you have to talk to a counselor. And many parents have, and many parents will continue to do so, because we are being handed so many different situations in our lives now. And kids are trying to figure out, and we're trying to figure out as well. So we've got to help our youth to learn how to cope with sadness, loss, disappointment by modeling resilience in our own behavior. There's always going to be challenges, but youth need these skills to cope with life and recover from all of these challenges that they're going to face throughout their life. So we've got some resources for parents that are going to be here, and we'll go through, but you can see, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but we can provide that to you in the school. We also, Prevention Resources offers a help app. It's our Prevention Resources help app that you can download. And it connects you to services throughout the county and the state on various topics, drugs and alcohol, whether it be bullying, whether it be issues with family problems, divorce, separation, all the things that we've got going on that kids are dealing with and families are dealing with as well. Various resources, and you can download that app, and there's a QR code there that can be scanned. And some additional resources, there's various apps that you can download on your computer or phone that help with relaxation. 7 Cups, Calm, Mindshift. Some are free, some have a small fee, but there's various ones out there. Talk Life, a peer support platform that engages an online community. People can talk about some of the things they're going through, and different apps to help you just deep breathe and focus on relaxation. Various things out there, and just look into those. And when kids know that you're doing things to help your body be more resilient, they'll do it as well.